I hear that's not going to happen. That's just enough people. What about you? How we get outside? How we get started? Well, Chad, I'm excited for you. We'll put the big guns on. We're just in the middle of the road.
Yeah. Oh, am I in the right place?
We'd like to welcome everyone here to the meeting of the... Can we have your attention, please? Thank you. We'd like to welcome everyone here to this meeting of the City of Orem Planning Commission this afternoon. We appreciate all of you being here. I've asked Mike Staker to offer an invocation.
Our Father in heaven, we're grateful this evening to meet together and discuss items in our city of Orem. We're grateful to live here and be a part of this great city. We pray that thou might bless us with thy spirit, that we can be articulate and cordial in our discussions this night. We pray in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you. We'll just remind everyone that this meeting's being broadcast on YouTube. And with that, we'll go ahead and take item 3.1, please.
Item 3.1 is a plat amendment. The applicant requests the city amend the villas at Sleepy Ridge Phase 2 amended in the PD 15 zone. So here on the left, you can see the zoning map. It is in the PD15 zone, right in the corner up by Linden. And then on the right, you can see the aerial photograph as well as the building outlines showing where they will be built. Here is the updated plat map. And just to zoom in a little bit, basically when the first plat was approved, there was a 10-foot distance between these two buildings, and they are now requesting an amendment to make it an 8-foot distance between the buildings. Nothing else on the plat has changed, just this distance right here. The Development Review Committee has determined this request complies with the Orem City Code, so staff recommend the Planning Commission approve the plat amendment for the villas at Sleepy Ridge Phase 2 amended in the PD15 zone. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for Ms. Haycock?
So when you say there was originally 10 feet, there wasn't, right? They just never had enough.
The plat was originally 10 feet, but it was not built that way. That's
Okay.
why they're requesting the amendment.
And the 8 feet does comply with the city code.
That's correct.
Okay. Any other questions? Is the applicant present? Is there anything you would like to add or say? If you could, please come to the microphone and give us your name.
Afternoon. My name's Dave Irving. I'm with Building Dynamics. I don't have anything further to say.
Okay.
Unless you have any questions.
Any questions? All right, thank you.
Appreciate it.
This item is a public hearing, and so we'll go ahead and open the public hearing. We'd like anyone who'd like to speak to this item to limit their comments to 3 minutes. Step to the microphone and give your name. So with that, we'll open the public hearing. Okay, seeing no one coming to the microphone, we'll close the public hearing, bring it back to the commission for any other questions or comments.
It's pretty straightforward, simple.
Okay. Would someone like to make a motion?
I move that the Planning Commission approve the plat amendment for the villas at Sleepy Ridge Phase 2, amended in the PD15 zone, as recommended by staff.
Mr. Spencer's made a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Iglesias seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Item 3.2, please.
Item 3.2 is another plat amendment. The applicant requests the city approve the plat amendment for Plat E, Phage Estates Residential Subdivision Amendment at 1437 North, 325 West in the R8 zone. So once again, on your left, you have the zoning map. You can see it is an R8 low-density residential, but it does abut the R6.5 medium-density residential. And then on your right, you have the aerial view just showing the 3 homes on the plat. Here's the plat. Essentially, what is going on is the street was vacated by the city, and so now we are just kind of doing the housekeeping where we actually divide up the land to the homes. So once again, the Development Review Committee has determined this request complies with the Orem City Code, and so staff recommends the Planning Commission approve the plat amendment for Plat E, Phage Estates Residential Subdivision Amendment at 1437 North, 325 West in the R8 zone.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Haycock? Is the applicant present?
It's us, the city.
Oh, it is?
Because of vacating.
They're vacating.
Well, we vacated the street,
Vacated it, but they just redivided the property.
so the city is okay. We can accept that.
So we are present if you have any questions.
We're glad to. Any questions or comments?
I have a question. We're talking about that they're basically using these as driveways. Could they rip that asphalt up and use it in any way they want at this point? Or, I mean, once this is taken care of? Would that be possible?
They could. They'd have to keep access for the other, like Lot 1 would have to keep access for 2 and 3.
Okay.
But yes, they could rip it up and put more grass in or whatever.
Something. Okay.
There is a utility easement in there for the city, and that's required to have asphalt over it.
Adam Pulver. I'm the son-in-law of one of the owners. In the CC&Rs, I think it talks about maintaining asphalt. If that's
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you. This is also a public hearing, so we'll go ahead and open the public hearing if anyone would like to step to the microphone and speak to this subject. And seeing no one coming, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing, bring it back to the commission. Any further comments? Okay. I will make a motion that we approve the plat amendment for Plat E of Phage Estates Residential Subdivision Amendment at 1437 North, 325 West in the R8 zone. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Ms. Jeffrey seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Item 3.3.
Item 3.3 is a site plan approval. The applicant requests site plan approval for the Berghoff Ash fourplex at 672 East, 1700 South in the R7.5 zone. So once again, there on your left, you have the zoning map. You can see that it is an R7.5 medium density residential, but it does abut the C2 community commercial. And then once again on your right, you have the aerial view showing the lot. Here's the site plan they have submitted. They have the driveway that leads back. The parking is screened from the main residential street as requested, and they meet all of the requirements we have for the site plan. Here is the elevations, just so you guys can get an idea of what they're going to look like. And then here is a close-up view of the proposed floor plan. So they do meet the maximum of 2 bedrooms, maximum of 900 square feet per unit, and all of the doors face a different direction coming out of the building. So the Development Review Committee has determined that this request complies with the Orem City Code. Staff recommends the Planning Commission approve the site plan for the Berghoff Ash fourplex at 672 East, 1700 South in the R7.5 zone.
Okay, now this, the elevations all meet the material requirements and so forth.
That's correct.
Good.
Any questions that anyone has?
And there's no basements, right?
Correct.
Okay. Is the applicant present? Is there anything you'd like to add or comments that you'd like to make? If you could step to the microphone, please.
I'm Dan Garvin with Garvin Contemporary Homes. I am representing the applicant, Mark Berghoff. I don't have any comments or questions, but if you do, please let me know.
Are there any questions?
Yeah, is there, and I'm not sure, is there a dumpster required for an ash facility like this?
No.
Or do they just
It's just a residential.
just regular residential? Okay, nothing's required of that. Okay.
So they'd have the regular cans as like anyone else then?
That would be difficult for a big truck to go down.
Right.
to.
That's why the question is there a location for one central location, but there's not a requirement? There's not.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? This item is not a public hearing, and the Planning Commission is the final approving authority on the site plan request. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I shall make the motion, sir.
Okay.
I move that we approve the affordable senior housing fourplex on the Berghoff, located at 672 East, 1700 South in the R7.5 zone.
Mr. Cochran has made a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Spencer seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, let's move on to item 3.4, please.
Item 3.4 is a preliminary plat. The applicant requests the city approve the preliminary plat for the farm at 580 South, 200 West, located in the R8 zone. Once again, we have the zoning map on the left. You can see that the entire area is zoned R8, low density residential. And then on the right, we have the aerial view showing the fields as they currently are now. Here is the proposed plat. All lots are above the required 8,000 square foot minimum. And this road right here is going to be the local street width requirement, whereas the other roads are going to be the sublocal requirement. And both of those are permitted in this zone, provided transportation approved them. And they did have a neighborhood meeting, and I included that because, as you can see, there were a lot of comments from it. Most of them we have discussed as a staff, and while they are definitely concerns, valid concerns, it isn't necessarily something that is not allowed by the zoning. And so most of them are something that is permitted in this zone, even if it isn't necessarily how the neighbors want it to be. One thing that did come up in a lot of the comments is during the neighborhood meeting, the neighbors were told that there would be some follow-up with the developer, and they have not heard from him. And I just wanted to bring that up with you so you guys would be aware of it. Overall, the Development Review Committee has determined that this request complies with the Orem City Code, and so staff recommends the Planning Commission approve the preliminary plat for the farm at 580 South, 200 West, located in the R8 zone. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for Ms. Haycock?
Can I just mention this applicant? I have a conflict of interest with this applicant as one of my customers, so I need to recuse myself from this item.
Okay.
Okay to be excused?
Yes, thank you for bringing that up.
Get out of here.
In a bit, Mike.
Okay, thank you. Are there some questions for Ms. Haycock?
Well, go ahead. I was going to say let's have him come up.
Okay.
Let's ask him.
Is the applicant present? Could you please step to the microphone? We'd like to ask some questions. And first, if you'll give us your name, and then if there's anything you'd like to say before our questions, please.
My name's Bruce Dickerson. I would just like to make a comment with regard to something else really quick. Is that okay, Flying Horse? Is that Flying Horse, I was before the Planning Commission about 18 months ago. It's a project down on Sand Hill Road, 144 units, and all of them are sold except 12 to most of them owner-occupied. We've obeyed the rules of Orem City, putting only 40% could be non-owner occupied. So I'm just reporting back that that's really gone well, and thank you very much.
Okay, good, thank you.
As far as this development, it's as I know a lot of these neighbors, and I've been here at the Orem City for 38 years, and anything I put my name on is going to be nice. And so we are proposing that with this subdivision, we are going to fence the perimeter. We haven't determined the quality of fence, meaning will it be stone or will it be vinyl or whatever it'll be nice. We've also just put up some restrictive covenants on the property that we will, and we are putting it as minimum of 1,800 square feet on the living area with 2-car garage for a rambler, and if it's 2-story, it'll be 1,400 square feet on the main floor and another 1,000 square feet upstairs. And we're going to require every homeowner or every person that buys the lot to post with us as the developer, not the city, because they still do that with the city, a $2,000 bond to guarantee that they have to get the landscaping in within a growing season. So I've done that before, and every person has never walked away from their money. They've landscaped their front yard plus the $1,000, I think, what the city requires. So there's $3,000. We've also are going to put in there that the exterior has to be stone, brick, or stucco or Harding siding. And other than that, I don't know if there's anything else I can add than what you already see. Any questions I can answer?
Questions for Mr. Dickerson?
And Mike should have said I'm a good customer.
He can't.
Not just a customer.
Yeah. Did
anyone have a question?
Did we want to make mention?
Well, I think we're good. I'd like to know the developer was supposed to get back to the community, right? What was that concern? What was that question that they were supposed to go back?
They wanted to know about the CC&Rs. I just got home 2 days ago, so
okay.
It's been Jerry Anderson, who's not very capable of doing much of anything, and my son-in-law, who's a total failure in life. So, you know, I'm glad that I'm back to take on this and be able to get this done. Are they shooting me yet, Bill? Okay.
Okay.
It's not life or death. This is just fun stuff.
Yeah, it is.
Well, I thought there was a specific point that they were supposed to get back to.
About
development of covenants.
Yeah, the development of the CC&Rs with the neighborhood input on it. We don't know if it's all of the neighborhood or just a specific portion of the neighborhood. And you don't know either.
I don't. But we have a rough draft, and the critical parts are the parts I've told you now. So, and at the end of the day, I did
elevation
110 lots up in Chair Apple, and every one of them had their landscaping in, fencing in. It's a beautiful subdivision. We've talked about Jerry building the homes, but we haven't decided. You know, this market's crazy.
It is,
as you're aware of, and we want to make it a nice development. I know the Farleys personally. That's how the property came about, because of them, and I gave them a deed restriction that it'd never be rezoned to anything of a higher density than the R18. So I've been involved with the actual owner. I don't own the property. Richard Losey owns the property, but he owns the property because of me and being involved in it. And part of the promise that I made to the Farleys was this won't be rezoned to twin homes or any higher density than R18. And so that's what we're going to do. At the end of the day, I think you're going to absolutely love the subdivision when it's completed. And, you know, one of the beautiful things about this piece of property are the 3 stubbed roads that are into it. So it's pretty simple to engineer for Roger, because at his age, I don't even know what he's capable of doing anymore.
By the time you finish, you're not going to have any friends.
As long as I have you on my side.
So
Bill will always be on my side.
You're addressing the idea that you're not going higher density.
No, I'm not going any higher.
But one of their concerns was that the lots were too small.
Well, you know what? I got a great solution for him. You can buy it from Richard Losey for $9.5 million, and you can do whatever you'd like with it. Because I really would be happy if they would do that.
And I'm just bringing that up, that's what's on there.
Yeah.
I just was asking.
Well, there's a simple solution.
Was this ever zoned other than R8?
No.
This little piece right here?
Years ago, probably was zoned something else, but it's been R8 for a long time.
For a long time.
50 years at least.
So
yeah, R8 is
a minimum requirement of 8,000 square feet.
And the surrounding zones, are they all R8?
R8.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay.
The average lot size is going to be 9,000 square feet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got some pretty big lots there, especially in the cul-de-sacs.
Yeah. And so if you go around the subdivision and look at some of the lots there, some are bigger and some are smaller or the same size. If you go to the west and you go to the east, and I know where the Bankhead's built and developed, and they're big, nice, expensive homes, but today it's not the demand. It's at the end of the day, we're going to sell these lots for $200,000 plus. So go put a home on it, 1,800 square feet. Figure that out. It's going to be $500,000, $600,000 house.
Okay. Any other questions? Or yes, Mr. Earl.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that the items that he talked about, putting in the exterior fence and the CC&Rs, those are purely voluntary on the developer's part. It's not something that the city can require or enforce. So just wanted to make sure everyone's aware that that's entirely up to him whether he wants to do that. He's not required to do it by the ordinance. So it's purely his call.
Okay, thank you.
And at the end of the day, I want something nice. I want my name's going to be on it. So I want to make sure that it the best we can protect the neighborhood. Because at the end of the day, if the city wins, the neighborhood wins, and we win, then everything is, it's a good thing that way. Now, do they want half-acre lots or third-acre lots? It's the economics of it.
Well, somebody could buy it.
They absolutely could.
And rezone it if they want to rezone
it for a year without until I came back, and then he said, "Go develop it." And I said, "Okay."
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Appreciate your comments. This item is not scheduled for a public hearing. However, because all of you are here, we feel like we'd like to hear your feelings. I'm sorry.
No.
So we're going to go ahead and have a public hearing and give those who would choose to do so an opportunity to express their comments or feelings. Just a moment before you come to the microphone, please. Mr. Earl, would you like to address? We're okay opening a public hearing, correct?
Yeah, you don't have to call it a public hearing. We're just going to open it up for some public comment.
Okay, thank you.
So
I'll stand correct.
Yeah. So maybe just a comment, if I could. I mean, I'm assuming that people are here because they have some concerns about the project, and based on calls that staff have received, we know that neighbors have some concerns about the proposal here. But maybe it would just be helpful to offer a reminder to the Planning Commission, as well as maybe some information to those who are here in the audience, that the Planning Commission's role in regards to approving a subdivision plat is quite limited. Under state law, a property owner who makes an application for a subdivision is entitled to approval if it meets all the requirements of city ordinances. So the ordinances that we would be talking about in this case would be things like minimum lot size, setbacks, or lot widths, street widths, things like that. And I believe staff have already determined that this proposal does meet all city ordinance requirements. And so unless there is some finding that in some respect this plat application does not comply with city codes, you really have no choice but to approve it under state law. So sorry if I'm disappointing the people who are here, but just a general comment that you don't like it for some reason can't change your ultimate duty in this regard unless somebody can point out that this proposal fails to comply with city ordinance in some respect.
Okay, thank you.
I just don't want people to have a false illusion that you can deny this just because the neighbors in general don't like it. You can only deny it if it doesn't comply with city ordinances.
Thank you for that clarification. So we'll go ahead and invite some public comment. We'd ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes, and if someone else has already made the point, in other words, I guess we don't want everyone to get up and make the same point. So if we've heard it once or twice, that should be sufficient. So, sir, if you'd like to go ahead, we'd ask that you state your name and where you live.
My name is Fred Johnson. I reside at 572 South, 130 West, just adjacent to the subject property. First of all, Chairperson, Commission, Paul Goodrich, Attorney, Legal Advice, thank you for this opportunity. I think we're well beyond the clarifying points that you've made about compliance. We know that the city recognizes that. We as a neighborhood recognize that the developers are in compliance. Frankly, I would hope that you can give me a little bit more time, maybe something close to equal to Bruce's time, because I am representing, I was illustriously elected, asked to see if I could represent some folks here. Not all, and everyone is certainly entitled to speak their piece, and we would hope that we wouldn't be redundant in doing that. The points of concern, I thank you, Bruce. I think Bruce is, in the few minutes that he shared, has taken a lot of stress out of a lot of people's lives. And I was concerned, and then when I found out that Bruce was out of town, that made sense. Because anything that Bruce does, I think he does well. I partnered with Bruce on a project 25 years ago, and a very professional fellow and has done a lot of things, forgot about developing a lot more than some developers in this city and community. So I recognize that Bruce does a good job, and so we're going to hold him to that. I think the concerns at this point, when you talk about being in compliance, let's just set that aside for a moment. We're not worried about compliance. What we are concerned about is that we have no less than 7 homes that are within a stone's throw of this project, or maybe a little bit further, that are Parade of Homes. These are a combination of L&T construction, Brinkerhoff construction, Carter construction, Ferry construction. I can go on and on and on. These are high-end custom home builders. This total project is surrounded by custom homes. These are not project homes. These are homes above grade that are in excess of 1,800 feet or thereabouts. What I would like to suggest, maybe propose, that Bruce, when I visited with him before the meeting, he said that they've got some restrictive covenants. He's now shared those with us. We would like to have you either allow this vote to either be stayed or have a commitment from Bruce that he would allow us to fulfill what they committed to do, and that was allow us to see the restrictive covenants, something of which we requested actually as late as last week. And because of people's time, I guess they didn't return our calls. But in any event, the masonry wall is something that was presented. It was a project that they used as Legacy Farms down on 2000 South and Main Street. They presented that. Their engineer, Mr. Dudley, presented that as a likely project that would be similar to ours.
But we'll let you continue if you're representing something.
I'm just about there.
Okay.
So having given that, I'm not going to talk to, there's a couple other issues that has to do with streets, and they referred us back to the city because that's an idea that the city's come up with. But there are some concerns about that. I'll let someone else share that part of it. The other thing is that the reason that the Legacy Farms did as well as it did as a developer and being in this business for 45 years myself, a real estate broker and marketing property and owning property, is, and I've visited with folks down there, some of the builders, that was a magnet. That masonry wall was a magnet to custom home builders and to people that attracted them, it drew them. What we're asking, we're not trying to be unreasonable. We would think that a $200,000 average price point on a lot sale would allow the developer to participate or give something back to our neighborhood. 30 years ago, Stonewood put in a stone entryway into our development. That was 30 years ago. I know a little of the background because I was a part of that when L&T and some of those folks got together and put those CCNRs together. So my proposal would be for them to review our CCNRs and maybe have something that would be similar to those CCNRs that would be conducive to this development. So the issues are that we would ask that you stay this vote unless we can get a commitment that we are allowed to be able to be a part of and see and approve these CCNRs. We're not going to be difficult people. We're going to be practical, reasonable people. But we would expect that Mr. Dickerson and Skyline Development will recognize we have a lot of money invested in those homes, and we would want to keep the integrity of development. And you know, it's not just about the neighborhood. It's about our community, the city of Orem. And I'm sorry I don't want to go there, but I think this thing has gotten off track a little bit about this density use in the city, and I'll say no more. But I thank you for your time, gentlemen and lady.
Thank you. I will say that we'll just take comment and then we'll respond to those comments at the end.
I need a box to stand on. My name is Jill Buse, and I live at 311 West, 500 South. This is a beautiful development, and I have no objections with it, except all the traffic, main traffic, comes out on these two little side streets onto 280 West, 500 South, and 300 West. And those are all single-family homes that are going to get bombarded so that their kids can't even go out and play. So we are asking that they have an egress, a road going out onto 4th South, And I know somebody's talked to people who own a house on 4th South who are willing to sell it in order for them to do that. We think that would take a lot of traffic off these side streets with families with small children and will not make them main thoroughfares. That is my only objection, and I would like to see that done. I'd like to see one out on 8th South, too, if possible. I think that would help. But just getting one out on 4th South would be wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Linda Breinholt, and I live at 178 West, 620 South in Orem. My backyard is will be phase 1, and the homes will be built starting right behind my house. The concern I have is the roads, that some of the roads in the plat, allegedly, what we've been told is that they're going to be narrow roads with a planter strip that's going to take up some of that road that we really need. In our neighborhood, there are many people who have a lot of children, friends, neighbors, whatever, but we have a lot of people parking on both sides of the road. And I can't see how putting in a park strip is going to alleviate the size of that road. It's going to make it so much more narrow that I'm concerned about safety, and I'm concerned about people parking on both sides of the road and making the roadway to travel on an unsafe situation for children and others to get in and out of that property. The other thing that concerns me is that the park strip, according to Orem Community or Orem Conservatory, they have said that park strips they use a lot of water and it's very wasteful. And that's a concern. I don't know, living in Utah, if we can waste water. That's a concern to me. The other thing that I'm concerned about with this park strip is that some neighbors will keep their park strip up and others won't. And over time, it could be a real eyesore. So those are my concerns about the size of the width of the roads that will be mitigated because of the park strips on both sides of the roads. So I would like to see that change, and I don't know why we're doing that, especially if it's wasteful as far as water goes. So I'd like you to hopefully put that out there and have a conversation about that if we could. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Amber Benson, and I live on one of the homes facing the development on 400. I don't know what the new road will be, 450 South. So we don't have sidewalk in front of our homes, and we'll probably meet with the city engineer to talk through that and how we can put those there. But partially, we had the misfortune of building our house too close to our easement, which we didn't really find out until now. So we don't have much of a front yard in front. So getting rid of the park strip for a bigger street, I personally would not like, just because we're all self-interested and we would have really no front yard at that point. But I do actually like the smaller streets. We drove along one yesterday, and it was in the new development by the Orem Elementary School. And with the double parking going on, especially with construction vehicles, you could not drive fast. It's near impossible to drive fast, and so I feel like that does slow the traffic down considerably. And I don't know. There's probably information on that, but personally, we couldn't go very fast through there, and speed obviously is a concern through these neighborhoods. So. I don't know, I feel like the smaller streets help with that. I appreciate that we are having those, that they're drawn in that way at this point. But that's really all I have to say at this point.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Jay Smithy. I live at 53 West, 560 South, just a little ways from the area here. Had some concern. We would like to downsize our house and move into this neighborhood. I would like bigger lots, but I understand that's an issue. I have to work out something with the developer. But I do have a question also is approving this plat, I want to find out, has something been done to make the access to 500 West? Because it's currently owned by somebody other than Mr. Losi. And has there been any consideration for what would happen there? Also up in the northeast corner, that plat does not conform.
Did we understand access to what?
500 West, yes, sorry.
West?
500 West.
That's 3 blocks away.
No, 500 South.
500
South. Come on, 500 South, yes, 500 South. Yeah. That parcel, there's a lot that is not owned by Mr. Losi there, and the far northeast corner does not conform with that plat map either as far as the current ownership or the current layout on the county records.
So you're saying 500 South, which side?
That's on the east side.
Okay, up in that area.
Yeah, there's a parcel that's blocking that, and if they can't get that, then it's also wide enough that it would take out the street that's at 150 West if they couldn't make a negotiation with them, and what would happen to the plat then if they couldn't negotiate that purchase or access, because it would cover that entire street of 150 West. And in the corner, it doesn't go around the corner. It's got a little jig-jag in there, so it doesn't comply with this plat map to the current county records of ownership the way it's been structured. So how would...
Which corner are you talking about?
The one that's up by where Farley's house is. It's it's in the northeast corner, that far northeast corner. If you look at it and look at the plot, yeah. If you look at the city records, it doesn't go around that street. There's a triangular jag that comes down into it. In talking to the Farleys, it was designed to be like this, but that's not the way it was written up and recorded. So how would they work that? Because the jag goes through the middle of the street that the Farleys would own. And if that's not negotiated, how can we make this plat work? So there's some problems with the way that they're proposing the plat and the actual ownership of the land. So I'd like to know how that's going to be resolved before that happens, because that's going to make a difference as to the egress into the Stonewood neighborhood where we're at, or is there any alternative going to happen if they can't negotiate that purchase? What would happen at that point? And so approving the plat before those answers are put up would be pretty difficult. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments?
I'm Greg Smith, 641 South of 150 West. I live in the Stonewood neighborhood. One concern I have was brought up, appreciate Mr. Dickerson being here. When we had our first meeting, it was presented by the developers that there would be a stone or masonry fence put up, but he, in his comments, introduced the idea of a vinyl fence, of which I think myself and the rest of us would be opposed to. A vinyl fence does not have the same kind of quality and appearance that our neighborhood deserves. Thank you.
Thank you. We don't want to, if you've had one opportunity to speak, we'd ask that you not take a second, okay?
I'm Kim Crawford. I own the property on the 228 West, 620 South. It's on the corner there of the development where the jog comes in from the west side. I've built a fence on there that's cost me a lot of money. It's the 6x6s and it's all double fenced and everything there. I'm just wondering with Bruce, are we going to build next to that? Are we going to tear that down, or what are we going to do?
I don't know. I haven't been out there, and we'll make it work though.
Okay. Second item is I've got a sump on my property that was built for the drainage of the irrigation water. About 17 feet deep. It's 5 feet high, wide. That was put in there for the irrigation to drain. I'm curious as to who bought the water rights and what.
The Farleys sold the water
they sold them to, I have no idea.
Okay, what's the maximum height you can build on that size of lot? The covenants.
35 feet.
Yeah.
75 feet?
35.
I think it's 120 feet. That's check.
I've had a view of Timpanogos for almost 29 years. I love it and it's beautiful. Are the properties going to be sold to individuals? And if they are they going to be sold at the same value, the $200,000 or whatever it is for the lot? And I didn't get that answer. I didn't hear it on the height. What was the height? 35 feet. Is that to the top of the highest peak of the house?
Yes.
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 Okay. I just like to keep my view and my fence. That's it.
Thank you.
My name is Greg Carlisle, 267 West, 540 South. Just a couple of questions that I had. How many people do they envision will be living here, and when would construction start? I don't know if that's up to you to talk about. I know you got to have an estimate, don't you?
It's 59 families.
Okay, 59 families times like 4, 6. Kind of gives us an area. When would construction start, and what do you envision as far as shutting down streets, having cones, that type of thing, weeks, months?
Not shutting the streets down, but as far as going in and doing the construction, we'll start as soon as the city does the final plat. We still have to go through final plat.
Okay.
So a lot of these questions will be answered but have to be resolved before final plat is done.
And then I just live around the corner in between these two roads here. So has the option been explored about going into 4 South? And does a neighbor really want to have their home built for that street? I mean, is this something that's seriously considered?
As a developer, no. For Richard Losey, no. It's like $600,000 to buy that house, put that street in. So it's economically not feasible.
Okay.
And I might be living in this subdivision, so I would prefer not to have that street in because I want to have those substandard or what do they call it?
Local.
Local streets, but they do slow the traffic down.
They do.
Okay. And finally, my consideration was the traffic patterns already coming through with the college going from 10,000 students to 38,000 students in 10 years. So we're seeing a huge increase right on our street on 3rd West there. So I'm just wondering if they figure any idea where the flow is going to go here, because obviously we have 2 streets right around the corner. I'm in between, and then you have the one going east. Any idea there, especially when they rezoned the PEG property, which the citizens are fighting against, and you guys were against, but now it looks like there might be a referendum. But still, this is a lot of traffic in front of our house. So any idea about where the traffic flow goes on this? Because you got 3 streets here, and I'm trying to figure that out.
Yes. Yeah, we'll answer at the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments?
My name's John Jackman. I live at 190 West, 620 South. So this will be right behind me. I do know Bruce, and the only threat I can have for him is I can get him a bad haircut, I guess, if it doesn't work out. No, the only thing, there were obviously the meeting today over spring break, there's a lot of individuals who would want to have been here and they couldn't. It would be nice if, I know Bruce and I think everybody else does, if we could have a meeting before this actually got finalized to where we could all feel comfortable that what was going to happen.
Thank you. Okay, any other comments? So can we talk about the process from here? This is a preliminary plat approval, and where does it go from this point through the city process? Oh, yes, we'll close the public comment. Thank you.
So once the preliminary plat has been approved by the Planning Commission, Cliff Peterson and I work on the final plat, and we take sort of the difference between the preliminary and the final is that the preliminary includes a lot of things like utilities, and it goes through the stage of coming to Planning Commission. Final plat is something that is done administratively, and it is what is actually submitted to the county and finalized. And so things like the ownership of the potential street going out to 500 South, that is something that we're aware of. That was an illegal subdivision by the Farleys, and it is something that is going to be cleared up for the final. In fact, last I've heard, it's already been cleared up. But the preliminary is more of an overview of what all is going on here, and then the final is when we really get into the weeds and start looking.
And the detail will come in the final plat.
That's correct.
Okay.
Do the neighbors get involved in any of that?
No, the final plat is administrative.
Okay. Paul, would you like to respond to the traffic issues?
Yeah, the developer, if I remember correctly, when they came in for the subdivision, they requested sublocal street sizes for all of the streets in this development. When engineering staff reviewed this, myself and 4 other engineers, we looked at it and we made the recommendation that some of the streets needed to be the full local size widths. 3 of those are the connection points to where it'll connect to both the 2 stub roads to the west and the 1 stub road to the east. So those roads will be the same width, same asphalt width, same curb and gutter width as it connects to those 3 different connection points that, by the way, have been planned for ever since the surrounding subdivisions were developed and approved. And it has been years since we've known that this property is zoned for an R8, a minimum size 8,000 square foot lots. When we did our transportation master planning and traffic modeling for the entire city, we took into account what properties were already zoned as, even though they may be vacant and used as farm and other types of properties. We still took that into account as far as looking at what the future traffic generations were going to be. So that was taken into account for this property. Excuse me. When we do have rezones requests for properties, we will often look at taking a second look at that master plan and seeing if we can handle the additional traffic on the roads. But again, this property for some time has the legal zoning rights for 8,000 square foot lots. And as the developer has mentioned, their plan is to do typically lots that are larger than that. We can't, because of the zone, because of the traffic issues, we can't force the developer to build a road to 400 South. Again, if they desire to do that, that's something that is completely up to them to be able to make that if that connection if they want to. The park strips that we have on our streets in our city municipal code, that those 8-foot wide park strips are in those streets. One of the things that I can tell you with 31 years of experience in this industry now is that when you have some kind of a vertical element to streets that are closer to the streets, the traffic speeds are typically lower on those kinds of streets, and it makes it more conducive to the types of neighborhoods where children live and where families want to locate. A lot of our streets in Sandy, before I was with Orem for the last 12 years, I was with Sandy for 11 years. I'm going to guess that 50 to 60% of our residential streets had 5-foot park strips and 27 feet of asphalt instead of 28. They were typically pretty low-speed residential streets where families thrived and enjoyed the atmosphere, and it's our park strips are a little wider than that. If you want to have some good ideas for water-wise types of plantings, there's a really great water-wise garden down at
Central Utah Gardens.
Thank you, Central Utah Gardens, University Parkway, and 400
West.
Yeah. Anyway, that's a great location where you can look at. They have a great garden with different types of water-wise types of materials that you can choose.
I would also add to that, if we did get rid of the park strip, it wouldn't lessen the amount of grass or whatever that needed to be watered. All it would do is shift the sidewalk forward. And so getting rid of the park strip would not lessen any water wastage. It would just shift it to a different part of the lawn.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Any other questions for Paul or Mr. Dickerson? Can you step up here and respond to a couple of these issues? So,
what's the issue?
Well, one of them that we have is that the neighbors would like a commitment from you so that they can see the covenants before they're finalized, and if they would at least be reasonably close to, if not similar to, what their existing CC&Rs are.
I will give the commitment that the ones that I have put together in Chair Apple and other subdivisions in Orem, the Cliffs, and here, that I will be reasonable with them, but I'm not guaranteeing 100% that I'll do what they want, because if you ask my wife, she knows that I won't do that either. But
well, but you're willing to discuss the issue.
I think what we've put in the CC&Rs now as the square footage, and you figure out what it costs, Fred, to build a house per foot, you're talking $500,000. Now, you're not talking $1 million, and every house around the subdivision is not $1 million house. The ones to the west are not. He said they're all the homes around the subdivision are expensive. Well, they're not. And the truth of the matter is this will improve the values. It's going to be nice, it's going to be adequate, but it's not going to be deluxe $1 million, $2 million homes. So, you know, the truth of the matter is that they could be 8,000 square foot lots, and I can sell them to Salisbury Construction or a Fieldstone or somebody like that, but I'm not going to. And so I'm going to guarantee it that I will guarantee the neighbors, I'll guarantee them all, it's going to be a nice product. But for me to sit here and say I'm going to take $9.5 million of Richard Losey's money and put it in their hands to make sure that it agrees with what they want to do, no, I can't make that commitment.
No, and I think the only thing I think the issue is that you're willing to talk.
I'm absolutely willing to talk, and I'm willing to listen, and, you know, I don't know on the fence. I thought it was, if it's whatever it needs to be, we'll make it nice at the end of the day. And I hope that Orem City knows, and I know he knows, and he knows, and he knows, because they've been here with me long enough to know if I give you my word, it'll happen. It'll be nice.
What kind of fence were you going to do?
I said that the worst case, the one gentleman wants me to put a wood fence in, so it's like half a dozen of one and 6 of the other. I love vinyl fencing at my house.
Well, I thought you had said masonry, but then somebody else mentioned vinyl. And
they committed that while I was out of town, then I'll make them pay for it.
What about razor wire? Would that work okay?
Would what?
If you just put razor wire up and just cut the whole
chain link?
As long as it looks nice.
Yeah.
And it's straight.
Well, if you're they said vinyl, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. But see, I think nice is vinyl because I love it. I don't want people to...
Hey.
Okay, it's not a discussion between everybody.
Yeah.
Let me just make a statement. Bruce, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for at least being willing to work with him. But again, please understand that he is not committed. He can't commit to, we can't hold him to any kind of commitment. I think you keep your relationship, the community with Bruce, open and kind, and I think he's willing to work with you guys. He's been around for a long time. He's worked a lot of projects. We appreciate you, Bruce. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that all my questions?
Any other questions?
We don't have questions?
The what?
No.
What about the road? We've already got that resolved with the Farleys and with Marcy, so that's a non-issue.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that. As far as the other issue was delaying the vote until some future time, and would you like to address that one?
Yeah, I would recommend that you not do that, just because that sort of implies that we're requiring the developer to negotiate with the neighbors or to assume some obligation with the CC&Rs. We can't do that. You know, he could come back and say, I'm not going to do anything with the CC&Rs, and it wouldn't be grounds for us to not approve the plat. So I don't think there should be any implication that we're trying to coerce him or, you know, require something that we can't require.
Thank you. Well said. Okay. Are there any other questions or comments from the commission?
I just want to share kind of an experience that I have that's real similar to what they're dealing with. I'm on 650 East, 200 North. There was an empty lot that was about almost 3 acres right next to my home, and the street did not go all the way through. And I was next to it for 13 years as just a resident. I was not a planning commission member. I didn't know anything, but I kept an eye on that lot for 13 years because I wanted to buy the lot myself so that I can subdivide it and then sell it and then end up with one free lot. Well, it didn't work out. Somebody outbid me, and so I ended up paying for a 1/3 acre in 2007. I paid over $200,000 just for the dirt. So now, as the economy's gone, these lots will sell for at least that, if not maybe even more, depending on the demand. But I lived in a house that I purchased right next door, or that existing house. I paid $119,000. That house still stands there. I sold that house, built a house on one of the lots that I bought, and I built a house that at that time was worth about $740,000. It lost some value when the economy crashed in 2009. It's well worth over $800,000. A home right next to me was built. It's got the value about $900,000. Dr. Rasmussen built a house right in front of me. His house is worth $1.5 million. But we still have the homes right next to each other that are $200,000 to $300,000, or were at that point $200,000 to $300,000 value. They've increased. My property value has not decreased because of the value of those smaller homes. And I can show you my taxes because the city of Orem has hit me with a lot of high taxes. My property tax went up $100,000 in value. I'm not sure how that happened, but and there is people that are for the narrow streets. There's people that are for the wider streets. That's why the city has an ordinance, because they can't satisfy everybody's need, but they're not going to put an ordinance that's going to cause an issue, a safety issue or traffic issue in your community. We've been hit hard with a lot of high-density apartment complexes. And why did the Planning Commission let that happen? You know, again, these are property owners that had properties that sat vacant for a long time. This piece of property was farmed, I'm assuming, for a while, and then it sat vacant for probably the last year. I'm not sure how long. But everybody had the opportunity. The owner has an opportunity to sell that property, and as long as it's zoned for what it's zoned for, they can develop it. If you wanted to make a change, those of you who've been next to this property had many of opportunities to discuss that before it came to this point. So we appreciate it. I've been there. I understand. But if you're concerned about property value, that really the city they can't have an opinion on that. But it is an R8. It can be developed. These houses will be really nice homes, the narrower street will cause less traffic because people will realize I don't want to go through the narrow side of going to the left side entering on this. So I just wanted to share that so everybody knows what was going through my mind and my thought.
Okay, thank you. I think we're back to the issue at hand, and that is that if this development meets the criteria, we need to approve it. And so with that, is there someone that would like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. I move that the city approve the preliminary plat for the farm at 580 South 200 West, located in the R8 zone.
Ms. Jeffries has made a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Cochran seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you all for coming. We appreciate your comments and your input. Work with Mr. Dickerson.
And
see if you can get what you need.
And this is a preliminary plat.
Yes. Okay, let's, the next item on the agenda are the minutes. We're still continuing here, so if you could take your comment outside, that would be appreciated.
And I hit your gavel.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, please
take it outside.
Can you take your comments and your discussions out in the hall, please, so that we can conclude our meeting?
No, you're good.
Yes. Okay, the last item on the agenda is the minutes from, and I lost
21st.
my March 21st. Are there any comments on those minutes?
Okay.
On the March 21st Planning Commission meeting minutes? Okay, if there are no comments, I will entertain a motion. Okay.
In the document.
Mr. Spencer has made a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Jeffrey seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. I will make a motion. Oh.
Just in case.
Just in case, yeah. If there are no further comments, I'll make a motion that we adjourn the meeting. Is there a second? Mr. Cochran seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No one was opposed.
Nope.